Hello, everyone. Today, I'd like to introduce to you adaptive authentication proof of concept that I made for Keycloak. It consists of several components. As you can see, they are kind of interconnected together. Before we dive deep into the details and everything, it would be great to mention something about me. My name is Martin Bartos, and I'm senior software engineer at Red Hat. Um, I'm part of the Keycloak cloud native team. Uh, yeah, and I'm based in Brno, Czech Republic. Also, it would be great to mention some context about this and how it all started and stuff around that. So that was the topic of my master thesis that I've completed this year. The goal was to provide the proof of concept of integrating adaptive authentication into Keycloak, as I've created as a Keycloak extension, as already know how Keycloak is extendable and so on, right? Yeah, I tried to touch the Keycloak code base as little as possible, as I mentioned, leveraging the extendability and not touching the internal code so much. So we can try to start with some terminology, just briefly describe it. What is the adaptive authentication? Adaptive authentication is dynamic user identity verification mechanism. It changes authentication requirements in real time for users. It mostly relies on a risk-based authentication and use multiple context information. It can be like IP address, location, user properties, network, and so much more like that. On the picture here, you can see the difference between the multi-factor authentication and adaptive authentication. As a adaptive one should be more flexible, ongoing, continuous in terms like when some suspicious activity is happening on the user side, is just dropped or locked out from it. It never ends, in difference with the MFA. Yeah, that's the ongoing, right? Yeah. It would be great to also mention the pros and cons of the adaptive authentication and what can you bring um, on the table with this one. There should be the first one's benefit strength and security, as additional factors are required when accessing sensitive resources. It just adapts the authentication flow based on it, right? Also, the better UX. On the opposite side, um, it's not required all the factors that are specified. You know, when the risk is when yeah, we will see it afterwards also. When the risk is low, I will explain it a little bit more after that. There's also better context-aware protection, as we gather more information about the authentication attempt. Also, the flexibility as more capabilities to meet customer needs. Also, simpler AI or machine learning integration into this, as it might provide more knowledgeable decisions based on AI or machine learning, some stuff. It would also might help to fulfill some regulations, as DORA is too, uh, as it provides the capabilities of processing and analyzing events and risk assessments for it. Also, the drawback for it, yeah, of course, the initial complexity, as it requires some new components, right, and some concepts, right. Also, there's a big question about the risk assessment accuracy, as the assessment mechanism needs to be reasonably tailored, and uh, there's no final answer how to do it properly, right? It's like based on some consensus of multiple organizations. I don't know, like it's a quite difficult topic to handle it with this one. During the working on the adaptive authentication POC, several parts were integrated into Keycloak. As the first one is providing authentication policies, risk-based authentication, and leveraging AI or and machine learning approach. We can go one by one, and in the end, I will show you some demo for it. Yeah, how is it working together? So, authentication policies. Authentication policies verify that users met specific requirements. It defines actions that users need to perform during authentication. Yeah, they are required to do it this way, right? Right now, it's basically rules with condition to action syntax. Right now, it's more like a static defining of the rules that every user needs to perform. But in the future, we may be more dynamic, like to fulfill the adaptive authentication capabilities. I will show you after that as well. Yeah, it helps to filter users that are able to authenticate based on several aspects, even without knowing the user beforehand. As I mentioned, the IP restrictions, network properties, device attributes, location, and something like that. We can take a look at the current implementation I made inside the Keycloak POC for authentication policies. They were implemented only like a restricted conditional flows because they already offer the same functionality, right? The rules as we have the condition and then the action for the user. There were provided separate management with the default settings for the admin console, also improve the REST API around it and stuff like that. We can define the comprehensive rules as we are not able, or we don't have to get messy with the authentication flows and have the rules all the rules in the authentication flows, right? I will show you that. It can change evaluation order of the policies as they are basically the priorities. There is also the different evaluation phases when user is not needed, as you can specify that some policy may not require user and some other require them. Um, it will be visible more on the screenshots on the demo. It's like the policies that are not requiring the user, they are evaluated before the authentication process even start. Also, there were provided some new conditions reflecting the various user contexts, location, IP, device. But as I mentioned, it's in experimental state. It's like, yeah, just trying it out. Here's a sneak peek of the administrator console. As you can see, there's the, as you can everyone knows the authentication page, right? There's a new tab, authentication policies, as you can specify, yeah, the policy itself with some basic data around it, and then the detail where you can see the actual conditions and the action for the user. And how is it integrated into Keycloak authentication flows? There's the new one authenticator for the authentication policies that separately process different flows. It means that it also has the separate authentication flow lifecycle, like the nested lifecycle of these flows. It's also the prerequisite for ability to reference flows in different flows. As you can imagine, you have the authentication flow and you want to achieve some special cases. You just need to explicitly add all these conditions, actions. It might be the prerequisite to like, okay, redirect me to the different flow and execute it afterwards. Current implementation needs to be polished, and I also need to resolve the challenge responses when the data are sent between that. Yeah, it's like that. We can consider some simple flow as we explicitly add the authentication policies authenticator. You can see it in the beginning and in the end. That's the one not requiring the user. Yeah, they are just executed before the authentication flow itself. Here's the diagram. How is it working? As I mentioned, The policies are just subflows that are evaluated or executed separately. Yeah, I think I got nothing much to say about this. We can move on to the second section, which is touching the risk-based authentication. Risk-based authentication just evaluates the risk or the probability that the user is imposter. It's like not who claims to be, right? It can consider multiple contexts, as I mentioned, IP location, login events, browser, or some behavior change, user behavior change, It calculates the overall risk score and assign it to risk level. Risk level is basically a category representing the magnitude of the risk. In the POC, there were provided two approaches with a different granularity. As you can see, the simple and advanced. Uh, when the risk is evaluated for it, it's just assigned to the risk level, right? And when the risk level is assigned, you can execute some specific action on that. It means like when the risk is low, we can just move on and okay, user is authenticated. But when the request is like has a medium risk level of it, we can just require multi-factor authentication. When it's high, we can just requiring any other factors or just denying the access. Uh, might work like this. Here's also the diagram. I hope it's visible a lot. Yeah, we have some risk evaluators that calculates the risk for each user context. Then these results are aggregated in the risk engine. That some like gathering the risk levels and calculating the final risk score. And then, as I mentioned, assign it to the risk levels and execute the particular action. How is it working with the risk score calculation? Yeah, that's the question, right? There might be multiple risk evaluators for multiple contexts. Yeah, as I've mentioned, evaluates risk for specific contexts. Also, the risk evaluator requires user or not, also based on the context. If the context is about the browser properties or network properties, or just about the user role, that's the different one. Yeah, we need to know who's accessing the application, right? The risk evaluator defines risk score and additionally also weight. The weight representing how much the risk score should influence the overall risk score. It means that in some evaluations we are more confident they are correct, or we just calculate it properly, or just some of them are more important for us than the other ones. That's the role of the weight. It's configurable by administrator. So yeah. Right now, the overall risk is equal to the weighted average of risk evaluators. But as the POC using the Keycloak SPI, you can just create your user context, your user, the risk evaluators, also the risk engine, and you can do whatever you want with that, right? Yeah, we are touching the third and last section of leveraging AI and machine learning approach for it. Artificial intelligence can be used for more complex risk evaluations. As I mentioned in the beginning, the evaluation of the risk might be really difficult because no one has the right answer. Like, is this more riskier than the other one? We don't know, right? We can just leverage also the AI um, to evaluate more contextual data, like historical data of login events, much more than we would not be yeah, able to do it. Right now, it's leveraging NLP engines, natural language processing, as the tasks are formulated in the natural language right now. Yeah, as I mentioned, there's the ability to dynamically evaluate risk score based on multiple contexts, which would be a little bit problematic to do it on our own. Also, there's the problem around the AI. It's some remote service, right? And the remote service and the risk calculation based on AI produce its own risk, right, to the authentication. So at least to mitigate these issues, the risk engine or from the AI model, it needs to return the risk score and the calculation explanation. Like, hey, why did you calculate it like that? And at least we have some brief description what factors were involved in there and how exactly the risk score was calculated from that. Some use cases, yeah, processing login events, logs, determine user behavior change, geolocation analysis, controversial, impossible travel, and so much, right? Current approach that I've included into the POC is leveraging well-known OpenAI ChatGPT, but it's possible to integrate with any AI model with the NLP engine deployed on OpenShift AI or something. Oh yeah, there's the SPI for it as well, so you can do it on your own as well, right? I don't know if I have the copyrights to include these logos there, but yeah, whatever, right? Right now, there's no custom model for risk assessment yet. It's like only a simple, kinda silly approach, like sending the data to ChatGPT and just okay, evaluate it for me. You know, like we have some statistical risk evaluations for it, but we also include the AI for it. Yeah, there's no wider context included about the authentication as some historical data and like this. I will show you some demo for it, but I pre-recorded it because everyone know how it's working with the live demo, right? I hope it's gonna work. Can I open it, right? Yeah. Yeah, I think it's gonna be visible. There are some animations. So, yeah, sure. So there's the Docker image that contains all the changes. This also available on Quay as it involves the adaptive capabilities and also the authentication policies and AI. Right now, it's just starting the Keycloak application. Yeah, it's based on Keycloak 2504 with authentication policies. We can access the admin console as we can take a look at the authentication policies first as the static rules for it. Everyone knows our administrator console, right? So here's the tab for the authentication policies. There are no authentication policies in the master realm, so I created some example realm for it. Authentication policies plus adaptive. There are already created some regarding the browsers, device, also the risk-based, and might be also for organizations that you can disable it and also set the state if they require user or not. Right? We can also change the priority of the evaluation, just dropping it out, right? Uh, to see the policies itself, we can just click the details, and for the device, we just have also the silly questions like no windows on local network, when iPhones from my startup network, and so on, like defining the rules. as we have the conditions, operating system if it's Windows, and IP address if it's local network. Yeah, and in that case, we just deny access. Now, for these new conditions, some operations were added for that, as we can just move it like, yeah, comply with the condition. Is any of Windows, Mac, Linux, could be whatever we want. Yeah. Right now, I think we can move on to the risk risk-based authentication, if I remember when I recorded it. Yeah. So, we have the risk-based policy for it. As in the beginning, we have the risk evaluator, that in that moment the risk is evaluated. Could be done better, like a separate thread or something. It uses asynchronous processing due to performance reasons, but we will not touch in it today. It just, here's the condition for the risk level that defines if the risk level is low, just or medium or high, the basic ones. We just load the access for the demonstration purposes. When it's medium, we just yeah, requiring the MFA like OTP, and when it's high, we just deny the access with some proper error message, right? Like, yeah, it's suspicious and the access was denied. Try it again later. We can try to do it. We will access the Keycloak account console for it for the specific realm that I created. We can try to do it with the user and user password. Like, yeah, there should not be any suspicious activity for it, right? So user is just yeah, able to access. Right now we can do some brute force attack, for example, on the user account. Yeah, just trying to guess the password or something. But yeah, there might be some suspicious activity, right? Medium is the level it was evaluated as medium, and the multi-factor was necessary for it. We can do it for the admin the same, like no suspicious activity, right? But the admin is more sensitive resource for us. Yeah, so we require the multi-factor as well. When we try to do the brute force attack on the admin user, it's like, okay, we are touching the sensitive resources and everything. The risk can be calculated as high, right? When we try to do it, yeah, the calculation and the request was denied with the proper error message. For the yeah, we can check the logs. As in, yeah, above we can see the login errors, right? Login events. And then what we are sending to the AI engine, as it's detecting the brute force attack right now. Like, yeah, we have the number of retries, right? Some data about it, and then the risk engine returns the risk score and the reason why it was calculated like that. We can see high number of login failures, rather the suspected brute force attack. There are some other risk evaluators for this one. As you can see, the debug message of it at like 90%, 70%, 60% with some weights, and the overall risk score. I don't know if it's visible. I think not. It's like 73% for the last one with the admin brute force. Oh yeah, then the 73% is touching the highest risk level condition category, right? And the proper action was executed as the denying the access. But yeah, in normal situations, we probably wouldn't deny it right now, right? Uh, as yeah, and that's it for it. We wouldn't do it this way, as we might provide more necessary steps to provide like another MFA or something like that. I will. I don't know how to return. Yeah, Mac. Okay. Oh, mm, I have one slide. left. I think we have some time. It just around the what steps will be the next one. Yeah, yeah. I'd like to involve more the custom AI models, which are more efficient, more accurate, contextual, also provide the continuous risk evaluation that it would be happening in the background of Keycloak. Also gather more context information, maybe create some Keycloak focus group or SIG, as Vinod mentioned in the beginning. It would be great to involve more people in there, if it makes sense, right? Also the polishing and validations. I think that's it from my side. Here's the link for the extension. It would be great if you can try it out or just contribute it. Would be great. And yeah, thanks for your attention. Yeah. Do you have any questions? Here? Yeah, here.
So in the demo, it's the demo, but the question is the the risk assessment was only provided after the password was inserted. Like now we know this was the correct password, but we come in. So would it be possible to do it on the username as well, so that before no, this user cannot access the environment in the next 10 minutes because of
Yeah.
suspicious activities?
Yeah, sure. That's correct. I'm just leveraging the Keycloak functionality that uh like accessing the attributes if we already know who is the user, and for the security reasons it's done after the setting the password or accessing it. But in the normal situation, yeah, we would know the user in the username form, right? In the beginning, yeah, there might be some callback that after this one, as we know the user, we just evaluate the risk for that user, right? His or her the recent login failures and everything, like when at what time he's accessing it, and everything. Yeah, but that's valid point. It's just, yeah, POC. Another question there, yeah.
At the point of this time, it's implemented as a completely separate flow. So if you would have also multi-factor authentication set up, it might be that first the authentication policy requires you to enter a factor, and after that passes, the multi-factor again will ask you for the same factor, or if there's some
Yeah,
connection.
there needs to be explicitly added by administrator, and he's or hers in the control of it itself about the authentication flow. Right now, it's just put the authentication policies authenticator, and you will do it either that way or the other one. Like um, s- either setting the multi-factor requirement in the authentication flow as we are used to, right? Or just deny it from the authentication flow and explicitly add it to the authentication policies, right? Yeah, but it's like only the concept that it's the abstraction of these rules, because we don't want to get massive its authentication uh, flows, right? As the conditions that would be quite hard to maintain it and everything. It's just abstraction of it and the base layer for the dynamic authentication policies that might be discussed in the future, and they are discussed maybe currently, right? Yeah. Does it answer your question? Yeah. Okay. Here's the yeah. Sorry.
So thanks for the presentation. It's a great feature. And when can we expect this as a experimental feature in upstream Keycloak?
That's a tough question because it's made right now only in my repository, right? For it, I show it to our team. Um, they were generally happy about it, you know. But the timeline is really, I cannot say. We have something on our roadmap to support adaptive authentication. Uh, we will need to also involve more people because we don't have so much feedback on it. And then maybe get some parts of it, or just the base layer, or just something, and then maybe it's gonna be experimental feature in Keycloak.
Martin?
Yeah. I'm sorry, we don't have time for more questions, so I will be here so you can talk to me after that. Thank you.